Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to stage National Biodiesel Board CEO Donnell Rehagen.
Good morning. I am so happy to be here with you in sunny Florida for the National Biodiesel Conference and Expo. We are so glad that you're here with us, especially this year, as we celebrate some huge wins and share a new vision for our industry, and it's one of exponential growth. So vision, it's such a critical thing for an industry like ours to have, for any industry as far as that goes. I think back to the days before we have GPS technology and how much more challenging it was to plan for a country trip or a summer vacation. You had to get printed maps from multiple states or maybe buy one of the annual road atlases. Now I know I'm losing some of the younger folks in the crowd, but yes, they did actually used to print maps of each of the states on paper. But regardless of technology or not, planning for a road trip is still necessary today. That planning is creating the vision for that trip so that you can expect to reach the outcome or your destination. Our industry has a destination, and it's an awesome one in my mind. Now, 2019 was a very tough year for our industry. So on the farm side of things, 2019 brought widespread rain and flooding that delayed planting. Then just as challenging weather at harvest time, and many farmers were not even able to get crops in the first place. On the biodiesel side, due to federal policy uncertainty, we saw a number of plants close throughout the last half of the year. We saw biodiesel margins lag and cause additional financial struggles for many of our producers. I remember preparing for our November membership meeting, and I was thinking I'll be really glad when we can put this year behind us and start over. Now, at that time, I knew we had been working really hard on our top three priorities, tax, RFS, and trade. But there was uncertainty in every single one of them. I knew we had a great game plan on each of them and that we needed to stay the course, keep executing that plan, and that with patience, we would find great success. But it was getting really hard to continue to have patience. And then came December. We got some better news from the Department of Commerce about our trade cases following the presidential election in Argentina. And then we got the great news regarding our number one priority for 2019, the reinstatement of the biodiesel tax credit. President Trump signed legislation into law late Friday night, December 20th, I'll never forget the day, that provided much needed retroactivity for 2018 and 2019, and biodiesel and renewable diesel producers can now count on the tax credit for 2020, 2021, and 2022. So this has been the longest time period forward we've been able to count on the biodiesel tax credit since it was first introduced in 2005. This achievement is the result of a tremendous amount of effort over the past 2 years by NBB members and the soybean complex and all of our allies, everyone in this room. So I thank you to each and every one of you who participated in our fly-ins in Washington, D.C., signed letters to Congress, made phone calls, tweets, sent emails, showed up at local town halls, all of that and so much more. And I'd like to thank our staff and our contractor team in Washington, D.C., who worked tirelessly to pull every lever, to push every button, and to adjust every dial on a daily basis in a highly coordinated fashion to move us towards success. And I want to especially thank our members who encouraged their own DC asset teams to be in lockstep with our team, meeting weekly for the last 2 years to share intelligence, coordinate efforts, and to map out a game plan. I give a great deal of credit for our success on the tax credit to the growing collaboration within this group. I'm excited to hear from our panel later this morning that includes some of those experts who were involved in those conversations to provide some additional color on how we finally got this critical achievement over the finish line. And of course, we couldn't have done it without our champions in the House and Senate who believe in the great value our industry brings to our country. Now, while this stability, this long-term tax credit provides is a considerable weight off of our shoulders, our job is not done. We must now turn our collective attention and advocacy to the number one industry driver, the renewable fuel standard. Our goal is to turn the tide of flat growth in the biomass-based diesel category to an RFS in 2020 that recognizes the huge potential and growth opportunities biodiesel and renewable diesel have. Our job is not going to be an easy one. We have an EPA that has taken every opportunity it has to hold growth of renewable fuels down. 2020 will see us aggressively claim our space in the RFS and to advocate at all levels of government for the recognition that significant growth in biomass-based diesel in the RFS is not just warranted and earned by our industry, but is good federal policy in an environment of carbon reduction. Now, I've spent a lot of time already this morning talking about federal policy. It has been, after all, our centerpiece of our policy initiatives. But as I look forward into the 2020s, I can't help but be excited for what is coming together in state and regional policy that I believe will have potentially the biggest impact of all on our industry. Carbon policy is beginning to take shape all around the country. 10 years ago, there were only 4 states that had any kind of carbon policy or goal. Today, in 2020, carbon policy is driving cleaner transportation and home heating fuels in a growing number of states. With this kind of growth in the last 10 years, just think what the next 10 years will bring. So in October of last year, I announced the opening of our West Coast office with Floyd Vergara joining the NBB staff. Floyd was a 30-plus year regulator at CARB with a degree in engineering and on top of that, a law degree. He was literally one of the authors of the California LCFS. Floyd's time and experience at CARB will be paramount to NBB's efforts to support a growing carbon policy, not only in California, but up and down the West Coast, and even in other regions of the country who look to follow their lead. To learn more about our growing policy and regulatory efforts at the state and regional levels, be sure to check out the breakout session tomorrow. It's entitled Outlook for State and Provincial Carbon Markets. So, speaking of regions that are embracing the many environmental benefits of biodiesel, on the East Coast, 2019 saw an entire industry fully and entirely commit to biodiesel. The Northeast heating oil industry in September resolved to achieve, get this, net zero carbon dioxide emissions by 2050. This extremely ambitious goal was set at the Northeast Industry Summit held during the 2019 Heat Show in Providence, Rhode Island. This commitment by the industry, the entire industry, is dubbed the Providence Resolution, and it's to reduce emissions will require an even greater use of renewable liquid heating fuel than we are seeing today, potentially 3 billion gallons annually by 2030. This is a monumental accomplishment for the heating oil industry, but also for our industry. To me, it is a shining example of what we can accomplish when we collaborate with other industries with which we share values and goals. So I'm really excited for you to hear more about this collaboration, to be and meet some of the key players who ushered that Providence resolution across the finish line. Tomorrow morning on this stage, they'll be here to discuss in roundtable form this ambitious vision and what it means for our industry. So I've laid out a few reasons why I am extremely bullish on the future of biodiesel and renewable diesel. But I don't want to suggest that it's going to be a cakewalk. It will take some rebranding of sorts. to help consumers and policymakers understand how biodiesel and renewable diesel are not just like diesel, but rather way better. NBB has taken some of the preliminary steps towards this new branding. NBB undertook an in-house revamp of our flagship websites, biodiesel.org and nbb.org, to make them more user-friendly and up-to-date. Our websites remain the premier source for information about biodiesel on the web, with more than 1.2 million page views a year and the #1 listing across major search engines. Now this, along with education and outreach efforts to key audiences, including policymakers, OEMs, environmental organizations, key decision makers, and a national advertising campaign that reached more than 14 million Americans through digital, print, radio, and social media, are key in building the brand of biodiesel. This work has helped lay the groundwork for where we are now. We, that would be NBB and you, must take our education efforts to another level to achieve the kind of growth we are looking at over the next decade. This growth will only occur with a mindset shift that must begin with all of you in this room. Biodiesel can no longer be viewed as an afterthought, a diesel blend stock, an arbitrage opportunity. Biodiesel must be understood as a premium product. It must be produced, bought, and sold that way. If Americans want better, cleaner transportation fuel, then why shouldn't they expect to maybe pay just a little bit more for it? Better products with more value cost more, right? A Rolex watch costs more than a Timex watch. Filet mignon, more than round steak. Why? Because they are better, higher quality products. Biodiesel must be seen the same way. If everyone clearly understands the value biodiesel and renewable diesel bring above diesel fuel, then why not sell it that way too? With this conference, and as part of our strategic plan, NBB is also launching its new tagline to help consumers and policymakers succinctly understand why biodiesel and renewable diesel are truly premium products. Biodiesel, better, cleaner now. This tagline will be a center point of NBB's education and promotion activities going forward. And I would encourage your companies and organizations to adopt it as well in your biodiesel materials. This tagline is compact yet powerful. It will allow us to drive the narrative about the myriad of ways that biodiesel and renewable diesel are better. The myriad of ways that biodiesel and renewable diesel are cleaner. And obviously, it's critically important we drive home the fact that both of these products are available now. It will be flexible based on the audience, allowing us to focus on either the better aspects or the cleaner aspects, or both. I envision a digital and social media campaign that focuses on individual reasons biodiesel and renewable diesel are better, and the individual reasons biodiesel and renewable diesel are cleaner. Our industry will begin driving the dialogue about the premium aspects of our products. And with that, driving perceptions of consumers, downstream blenders, retailers, policymakers in both DC and in state houses around the country. We must remember, premium products have more value in the marketplace. So vision. Look around our conference space for 10 seconds and you're going to see it all over the place. It's this year's conference theme, after all. But it's more than just a theme. It's a necessity. Without a clear vision of the future, what we want to be, where we want to go, and how we'll get there, we will never be more than we are today. In 2019, your association leadership put into motion a process to develop a new strategic plan that I'm happy to unveil here today. This includes a new public vision statement as well as a plan for how to get there. So check out our new vision. Biodiesel, renewable diesel, and renewable jet fuel will be recognized as mainstream low-carbon fuel options with superior performance and emission characteristics. In on-road, off-road, air transportation, electricity generation, and home heating applications, use will exceed 6 billion gallons by 2030, eliminating over 35 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent greenhouse gas emissions annually. With advancements in feedstock, use will reach 15 billion gallons by 2050. So yes, we actually have a vision to be a 6 billion gallon industry in 10 years. Now, that will require us to more than double from our current production levels. I believe that 6 billion gallons of biomass-based diesel by 2030 is totally attainable. Will our industry look different than it does today? Absolutely. I also accept the fact that 15 billion gallons by 2050 is extremely ambitious. But ambitious industries need ambitious goals. And in our case, our country needs us to be this ambitious. If zero carbon is the goal, there is no logical path to that end without growing amounts of carbonless transportation fuels like biodiesel and renewable diesel. Although I consider myself a glass half full kind of guy, I am also a realist. We will face significant challenges to reach these goals moving forward. We know that and we accept the challenge. We have planned for it. We are defining the game plan. We are getting the team put together. We have created partnerships. We have collaborated and grown our footprint. And we have all of you. So it seems to me, with all those things in place, we have every reason to believe. Now, I truly believe that we are on the cutting edge of a fundamental shift in how consumers look at their transportation and home heating. Decarbonization is just beginning. Just look at the volumes being utilized now in California, Oregon, Washington, New York. It's inevitable to me that decarbonization will take root in the Midwest as well. All things considered, 15 billion gallons of biomass-based diesel in 30 years may not be that big of a stretch. So watch for more from our communications team this week on the details of how our new mission and vision, and please, please help us spread the word. The more our stakeholders know about our vision for the future and the potential growth that we foresee, the better off we'll all be. It's truly going to take us all to get there after all. This is a team effort, and today we are breaking the huddle to go run this play. In closing, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to each of you who make up this wonderful industry. As your CEO, I've been blessed with tremendous leadership from the industry and our governing board. And I'd like to take this opportunity to especially thank Kent Engelbrecht, our past chair, who just finished his third year in that role for the National Biodiesel Board. I so much appreciated Kent and his steady leadership and support as NBB transitioned to the organization that it is today. So Kent, thank you. I am equally blessed with a top-notch staff and an ever-engaging membership and great products in biodiesel and renewable diesel that is making the world a better place. I love where our industry has been. I love where our industry is. And with your help, I totally love where our industry is going to be. Thank you.